I'm going to make a different legacy for those that God stewards in my life or my children. Fathering is very, very, very important, as we'll learn today. You know, when you look at it, there's a parallel track between fathering and marriage. And just as there are seasons in a marriage, there's courtship and there's engagement, children come, then children get old, and finally graduation, and we become empty nesters. So there are seasons in our lives when our kids necessitate that a father take specific action. That's why I wanted you to really hear me today. Instead of take notes or do anything, I wanted to speak to your heart about the crucial role of a father. You know, there are things that make a dad great, and many times they're the exact things that you usually do and you usually concentrate on when God stewards to you a little child and you have a baby. And in those early months, in fact, in that first year, it just instinctively comes out of a dad, the necessary actions that make a difference in a kid's life. But it's funny how things can change with time. You know, I remember we have 3 children. I remember when we had our firstborn, Danielle, I was literally just a phobic father. I wouldn't let anybody touch her or hold her unless they washed their hands. I mean, it was ridiculous. I stood guard over her, and if the pacifier dropped on the floor, I'd run to the kitchen and I'd get a pot of water and want to boil water and get that pacifier all sanitized. But by the time our 3rd child, Jenny Lee, was born, man, I was looking for people to hold Jenny Lee. Gone was all the hand washing. And if the pacifier dropped on the floor, I'd just plop it right back in her mouth, you know? You know, funny how things change with time. But, you know, Dad, there are some specific actions that kids need from their dads that simply cannot change with time. Research has shown that even infants know and how to respond to their fathers differently than their mothers. And I want to make this real clear, because it's not just the Bible who says in Malachi 4:6, I'll turn the hearts of fathers to the children and the hearts of children to their fathers, but instinctively the way God created us. Research has shown that even infants know how to respond, and they respond differently to their fathers than they do their mothers. And so the bond that a father can make with a baby literally sets the foundation for a lifetime. Think about it. A dad is a mender of toys. He's a leader of boys. He's a changer of fuses. He's a healer of bruises. He's a mover of couches, a soother of ouches. He's a pounder of nails and a teller of tales. He's a dryer of dishes and a fulfiller of wishes. How crucial is a dad? I want to remind you of those instant actions you had as a father. And I want to encourage you, Dad, to take those same steps of action to the children that God has put in your life. You say, Jerry, what are those? There's no question. The first action that kids really need from their dads is kids desperately need affection from their dads. You can't tell your child you love them enough. When they're little, you hug them and kiss them. I used to kiss my little ones so much they'd actually start crying. But you know what? There's so many times that when our kids get older, we stop hugging them. When they get to 18, we think that's kind of weird. We don't say enough, I love you, Mom and Dad, particularly Dad today. Show all the affection you can to your children because they absolutely crave it. Look what happens to a girl who does not get affection from her dad. You've seen the horrible results like I have. How many times I spoke in a public school somewhere in America, I could almost point out those girls that failed to get the love adequate from their fathers. And then conversely, watch a well-nurtured son who has received love and confidence from his father, and watch him in a very healthy way pass that on to his wife and pass that on to his children. You also know that tragically the abuse. And so as a father, I want to take that step of action and consistently show my children how much I love them, and I want to express it as much as possible. My son Jeremy is 25. We talk on the telephone at least 10 times a day, literally. We never hang up the phone without telling each other we love each other. Now that sounds like a lot of I love yous, but I want to tell you how wonderful that action is. Secondly, there's an action that kids crave from their dads, and it is the action of affirmation. You show me a son or a daughter who has received the affirmation from their dad, and I'll show you a son or a daughter that exudes with confidence. Affirmation is simply expressing approval by statements, in reply or word. It's cheering for our kids. It's telling our kids how great they are. As Gary Smalley said many years ago, it's pronouncing the blessing on our children. Wise dads build their kids' faith verbally, and then wise dads affirm their children. The kids that are affirmed become great leaders. How many times when I was a young Christian, I told my mom and dad all the dreams and desires I had for God. And they would say to me, "Jerry, you can do that. You can really do that." My precious mom, when I told her that I wanted to preach a sermon and record it on an LP record, kids don't even know what an LP record is today. And my mom said to me, "Oh, you can do it." You know, I actually have in our archives an album we produced of me preaching, an LP record. Picture of me in a peach suit right on the front. I must have been crazy. But my mom and dad affirmed me. Dad, I want to encourage you today, affirm your son. Affirm your daughter. Let the past be the past. Show them what they could be and can be. And I guarantee you, when they don't believe in themselves, they'll believe in your affirmation of themselves. The third action step that kids need is kids need laughter and lots of good times with their dads. You know, if we're not careful, we let the seriousness and the stress of life literally take all the fun out of our lives. I had the most wonderful meeting Monday morning with one of the men of our church. He's been such a tremendous supporter and backer of our church. Before he left, he said something to me that has lingered with me every day this week, and he doesn't even realize the impact he made on me. He said to me, "Jerry, give people hope. There's so much bad in the world. Give people hope." Some of you have come here today, and the legacy that you came from was a negative legacy, a legacy that said problems will doom you and you'll never get out of this and you'll never become what you want to be. But there are some of us here today that have come from a background that we have learned that problems are nothing more than disguised opportunities, that problems build character. Problems are really, in essence, and I know this may seem a little odd to some of you, but I grow the most spiritually in my life when I'm in the middle of the most difficult problems.